All right, so hopefully the sound is okay. Cause I had to, I don't know, my microphone just wasn't working right. But today, actually, we are talking about Washington D.C. since in America it is the 4th of July. As of I'm looking at my calendar, I think that's Tuesday. And in honor of that, I am actually wearing my old middle school band t-shirt. It's kind of tight, but it's not like super tight. The reason I'm wearing my Peachtree band shirt is because our mascot was the Patriots, and our colors were red, white, and blue because America. So anyways, yeah, so that's why you might see a little bit of Peachtree right here. This is my old middle school t-shirt, band t-shirt. So, for what I have written down here as the 4th of July extravaganza, we're going to start with the White House, so the Executive Mansion. And I don't know, like when I was little, I didn't think this place would be haunted, but I mean, it makes sense. It's been there for hundreds of years. So, of course, there's going to be some ghost stories. So, let's start with some little tiny facts about the White House, and then we'll go into the ghost stories. So, the White House was built on a site chosen by Pierre L'Enfant and George Washington in 1790. The house was designed by James Hobart, or Hoban, I think is his last name, who won a contest as to who could create the best design for the president's house. So this was like a nationwide, as wide as the nation was back then, contest, and this man will win. So what we see today is his design. Construction of the White House began in October 1792, and it was completed in 1800, and the first residents at the White House were President John Adams and his wife Abigail Adams. So George Washington did not stay there. He actually stayed at his home in Mount Vernon. The White House survived 2 fires. One during the War of 1812, in which it was set by British soldiers, and a second fire in 1929 in the West Wing. So I always knew the 1812 fire, but never the one in 1929. And I don't know what kind of fire that entailed. I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find it. So just know that they've survived 2 fires. So the White House contains 132 rooms, 35 bathrooms, and 6 levels. This building has stood for over 200 years, so you know there's going to be some ghost stories. Like, I don't know, I'm not really sure when the ghost started, but I'm going to start with the most famous, which is the Lincolns. So the Lincoln family, Abraham Lincoln, Mary Todd, and, you know, his son Willie, most notably. So from 1862 to 1863, Mary Todd Lincoln would hold seances in the Red Room and at the White House. And she was trying to contact her son Willie, who unfortunately died from typhoid fever at the very young age of 11 years old. He has been seen by members of Ulysses S. Grant's administration, who was president following President Lincoln, in the 1870s. So this has been going on since the 1870s. His father, President Abraham Lincoln, has been seen as well by many people, including First Lady Grace Coolidge, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and even Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands. In turn, President Lincoln would see his son Willie when he was living, so he would see the ghost of Willie, who would make regular visits to him. And I'm wondering, is this related to his mother's seances? Like, I guess he wasn't showing up right then, but he was showing up later. President Lincoln, this always freaks me out, also dreamed of his own funeral. He is said to have walked in on his own body lying in state, and the story goes that when he asked, you know, who has died, the person that he was nearest to, pointed to the coffin and or casket, and he looked in and it was him. So that's terrifying given what happens to Abraham Lincoln. Mary Todd Lincoln has heard the ghost of Andrew Jackson as well, so another president. Apparently she heard him laughing along with stomping and swearing. If you've ever, there's a podcast that I used to listen to called The Dollop, and they talk about Andrew Jackson. What a wild character. We'll just say that. That man, he's an interesting fellow. I believe that's the one they called Old Hickory, and I think there was something about bullets in his body, so they said when you could hear him walking. It's so stupid. It was like, could you hear the bullets? Because he had been shot so many times. That was one of the jokes on The Dollop. But yeah, I would encourage you to look at or listen to that episode if you want to know more about Andrew Jackson. But apparently he's a very loud spirit, and he haunted Mary Todd Lincoln. The ghost of Dolly Madison, President Madison's wife, has appeared to two White House landscapers, shouting at them to stay away from her rose garden. So the rose garden that is in the White House, on the White House grounds today, is her rose garden. And there are several stories, especially this one, in which, people would be trying to dig up the roses or doing something near the rose garden, and this woman in 18th century dress comes running at them, shouting, basically, hands off my roses. And I'm sure many people have quit or just been like, did you see that ish? This woman is, running at us. And I think they said she had a rolling pin. Dolly is wildin'. William Henry Harrison, the first president to die in the White House, by the way, this is for you, Dad, because I believe this is the president from Indiana, is said to have died in the White House, and he's said to haunt the attic. How I heard that I think this is the one that died from pneumonia during his inauguration speech, or his victory speech up in Indiana. He decided to go on the coldest day in January and do a victory lap, and he ends up dying because he basically probably caught a cold and then caught pneumonia. An unnamed British soldier has been seen trying to set fire to the White House. He is said to be from the War of 1812, and this is even in modern times. Secret Servicemen, guardsmen, or guards will see this man in this 18th century garb trying to light the White House afire. It's almost like a residual haunting, or he's just still trying to get the task done, and he just can't light it on fire. One last story from the White House, from the Executive Mansion. The ghost of Anna Surratt, daughter of Mary Surratt, a conspirator in the Lincoln assassination, is said to be seen banging on the front door to the White House, pleading for her mother to be pardoned by Andrew Johnson. And actually, many of the ghost stories I came across, really, Lincoln was, entwined with these stories, and I think it's because it's such a tragic event. It was such a big event, and a lot of people lost their lives, including the president, or their lives were ruined. So there's a lot of folklore related to Abraham Lincoln, and I kind of tried to avoid that because I was like, I don't want y'all to be hearing all about Abraham Lincoln, but kind of couldn't avoid it. So that is the White House. And now we go on to talk about Ford's Theater. So, sitting on 10th Street Northwest is Ford's Theater. This theater is considered to be one of the oldest theaters in the country. This theater is actually still functioning, so they still have plays and events there. However, due to the Lincoln assassination, this theater is haunted. And there's actually some other haunts that I couldn't really confirm, but they were just mostly it's the Lincoln assassination that's really bothering this place. So first we're going to talk about the history of Ford's Theater. So this theater was built in 1833. It served as a church until 1861. It officially became a theater in 1863. Now, back to the ghost. President Lincoln's ghost is said to haunt the theater. Apparently, he's mad too, which I'm not surprised because he's had unfinished business, you know. People report feeling cold spots as well and shadowy figures. And, you know, if that's not scary enough, the man who assassinated President Lincoln is also haunting the building as well, John Wilkes Booth. So, Booth is the one, like I said, who assassinated Lincoln, and he has been seen sprinting across the stage just as he did the night he killed Mr. Lincoln. Mary Todd Lincoln as well has also been seen in the president's box shouting, "They've killed my husband." Now, I've also heard that sometimes you can see President Lincoln himself sitting there, just chilling, watching the show. Well, probably not chilling, but he's just sitting there. So that's a little bit about Ford's Theater. The next story, the next place we're going to cover is the Capitol Building. So the Capitol Building is said to be cursed. This is something I did not know. It's said to be cursed by a man named John Lenthal. Lenthal worked for architect Benjamin, I think it's Latrobe. Lenthal worked on the building. He was actually building an arch using a design that he was unfamiliar with. He thought that the arch was finished, and he removed the wooden supports of the what he thought was a finished arch, and the arch crushed him. So it collapsed and killed him. Allegedly, he cursed the building with his dying breath, so he was quite unhappy. The curse is said to still remain. There's also, I don't know if this ties into the curse. I don't think it might. But this next one is the demon cat. Yes, there is a demon cat walking around the Capitol building. And if you know about like folklore, when I describe this cat, think the story it's in the South, it's called Wait Till Emmett Comes, where the cat gets bigger and bigger. But think Wait Till Emmett Comes. So this story of this cat dates back to 1862, when Union soldiers occupied the building. The cat is said to grow to unworldly proportions before pouncing on its victims. And from what I remember, actually we were up there and I read up on this some years ago, and it's said to be a black cat, because people think black cats are unlucky. People have been seen, paws have been seen on the Capitol floor. And I saw a picture on, I forgot what website that was, and you could see, they were little paw prints, but they were paws nonetheless, from a cat or some sort of four-legged animal. So that's when people were like, oh snap. This cat is said to appear before national tragedies, such as the stock market crash of 1929, and various assassinations. So the Lincoln assassination, they said the black cat appeared. They also said that, most, I guess you could say recently, when JFK was assassinated in Texas, they saw this black cat. And it did what it did. It got bigger and bigger. Former President John Quincy Adams is said to haunt the Capitol as well. He actually died of a stroke in the building. It said you can hear him shouting "no" in response to honoring the officers of the Mexican-American War. And a little bit of history behind that. The reason they said that he was shouting "no" was because he thought that it would expand slavery, and he worked closely with Lincoln, so I believe he was against slavery and didn't want it to expand and it be a bigger problem than it already was. So that's what he's shouting "no" about. And you can still hear this resounding "no" at the Capitol at odd hours of the night or day. Stairs also appear bloodstained. This is crazy. So there was a murder that took place there in 1886. Now this story is kind of confusing, so I'm gonna try to like water it down for you. This is related to the murder of Congressman William Talby by a journalist named Charles Kincaid, who claimed Talby was using his time in D.C. to have an affair with a woman. And that's not just the incident. It actually was a build-up to this shooting, but nonetheless, you can still see this man's blood on the stairs, on the marble stairs of this part of the Capitol. Talby is also said to trip up reporters at the Capitol as revenge for Kincaid ruining his reputation and probably murdering him too. I'm thinking that's what that's about. Now we go on to Arlington National Cemetery. So this story, no matter how people try to like spin it as far as like it being so noble and whatever, it's so petty to me in a way. Excuse me. This story is so petty to me. When my dad first told it to me, I was like, that is petty. But that's like a distinguished kind of petty. So Arlington National Cemetery was once the home of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. Now it is, it's home to, or the final resting place of 400,000 veterans. So what it is after the war, people, the way I understand it, I'm just going to make it like I said, as watered down as possible for us, because it is kind of entertaining and funny in a way. Good idea, but also kind of petty. So, to show, I guess, one of the leading Confederate generals, what he had done, and also to make a point, the United States government turned his plantation home into a graveyard. And he'll actually sue them for it, but I mean, I don't think he got any money out of it, but it was just to make a point. So both sides were trying to make a point, but I don't know. I think the cemetery in your front yard wins. But I don't think the cemetery itself is haunted. I've been there. It's actually a very peaceful place. But on the property is the old Post Chapel. Visitors have heard footsteps, voices, and organ music at odd hours of the night. There is nothing creepier than organ music. I don't know if it's because, I'm conditioned from watching old school scary movies or, scary movies on TCM. But apparently you can hear an organ, somebody just going off on the organ. And I would imagine in a cemetery especially, that's even creepier. Especially if it's echoing. Something about that no, absolutely not. Doors and cabinets are said to open and close on their own, even though they were previously locked. This activity is said to be from the wife of Robert E. Lee, who she was not happy that they took her home like this. That she had to leave her home, especially when it was turned into a cemetery. She called it a disgrace, and I learned that from this podcast I listened to called Southern Gothic, that she actually supposedly had her lady's maid, her slave, protect the house. Even, and I'm like, sis, you a good one. I'd be like, F this house. But, yeah, Mrs. Lee was not happy at all. They said that when she returned to the house and she saw that they basically just let it go, she was super pissed to be more modern about it. She was distraught. She was upset, given that she did not want this to be a cemetery, Honestly, I don't even think she saw that coming, but she didn't want it to be a cemetery, and also this was her family home, and she was attached to it. But yeah, she's been said to lurk around and do things because she's upset. And I do have a bonus story for you on my TikTok about the three sisters, which are these three rocks that sit in the Potomac River. And I would encourage you to watch that. That's actually the first story that I read. I had this book on like haunted DC when I was little, and that's like the first story that I read. And I was like, that's terrifying. So creepy. I also heard some legends when I was doing my research last night about the fact that the layout of Washington, D.C., this is a conspiracy, is apparently related to like Satanism or something. It was crazy. There were so many conspiracies, and like just absolute abject craziness, about the nation's capital that it was just like, what? One cool but not paranormal fact is that this is just a little thing for y'all, is that Benjamin Banneker, a black man, would actually help to design Washington D.C. alongside Pierre L'Enfant. So that was something that I forgot about, but that I found pretty interesting. So if you enjoyed this video, please click the like button, and if you want to leave a comment, you can leave a comment. And you can also follow me on my other social medias. So I have an Instagram that's painted haint. No, it's actually paint _it haint 21. I also have my TikTok, which is the same thing, painted haint. And I also have a Tumblr, which is KW Riri. Or you can really just look up my name and find it, because my name is not common. So enjoy your 4th of July if you're here in the States and you celebrate. If you're just interested in hearing scary stories, little short blurbs or scary stories about Washington, D.C., and you don't celebrate 4th of July, by all means, you can still watch this. But enjoy your summer and stay cool, because it is so hot. Oh my God. That's why I did this light makeup look, because it's so hot. And yeah, I will see you on the next Painted Haint. Bye.